Welcome back now for our ETF Spotlight. Energy ETFs in the green this morning as the energy sector reacts positively to continuing trade talks and ongoing OPEC price cuts. XLE outperforming, up almost 15% year to date. For more on what to expect from oil prices as the trade deadline nears, let's bring in CNBC contributor Helima Croft, RBC Capital Markets head of global commodity research. Helima, very good morning to you.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the Venezuela situation, which seemingly is worsening, which clearly is very, very sad to see for a number of reasons. What does it all mean for the oil market, and has the oil price already factored in their production removal?
I mean, the oil price, I think, factors in supplies not going to the United States. I don't think it factors in potentially what would happen if we have more confrontation in Venezuela, potentially the U.S. getting more dragged into this situation. So I think we have to watch very carefully what happens over the weekend with these aid convoys. The U.S. has airlifted supplies down to Colombia. They've basically blocked them from coming in, but the opposition is saying they're going to move these supplies. It's going to be very important to watch what happens if there's some type of confrontation over the weekend.
What would happen in terms of crude prices?
I mean, I think we'd have to watch. Like, if we get into a situation where the U.S. potentially has to back words with action, like we keep saying all options are on the table. And so if we have a situation where Venezuelan forces come into direct fighting with the opposition over these aid convoys and the U.S. potentially gets dragged into it, I think that's potentially bullish for oil prices. Also, if the U.S. imposes more sanctions on Venezuela, blocks countries from like China and India from taking those supplies, that's also more bullish.
How much of an offset is our own production numbers, which continue to just
12 million barrels.
Amazing.
I mean, this is an amazing story out of the U.S. But U.S. production's not the perfect offset for Venezuela in terms of crude quality. It's the lighter barrel. The Venezuelan barrel is a heavier barrel. That's why we see a premium now on heavier barrels. So the U.S. helps in terms of volume, but not the specific type of barrel that's needed.
What's OPEC compliance looking like at the moment?
OPEC compliance looks good because Saudi Arabia is back in whatever it takes mode. So Saudi Arabia basically said, we'll take production below 10 million. You have certain countries like Nigeria are not fulfilling their commitments. But if Saudi's willing to do it on their own backs, even with countries like Nigeria faltering or the Russians being slow, you can get a high compliance number.
If we get a big hug and kiss between U.S. and China, how much is built into
Well, I mean,
oil's bounce?
this has been something that's been really hanging over the market. We saw at the end of year the concerns about China, the concerns about global recession. If you have a positive story on the trade talks, that obviously is very helpful for crude.
How helpful?
I mean, we see oil prices for Brent averaging $68 this year. If you get a resolution on the trade story and more problems out of Venezuela, that's positive. Again, the U.S. story, though, has to be watched in terms of production.
You had that record U.S. production number in the EIA data yesterday. You also had a record export number.
Yes.
Who's buying our oil?
I mean, these barrels are now moving into Asia. I mean, that's been an incredible story about the U.S., is that you have U.S. barrels going into the Asian markets. And that has been something I think the Saudis and the other OPEC producers really are going to have to think about as we get into their next decision point. Like, how much are they going to continue to accommodate U.S. barrels entering what they saw as their home turf for oil supplies?
Quick switch of focus, Helima, to gold prices. What's the outlook there for the rest of the year?
I mean, we still see, positive momentum on gold prices. So, I mean, we remain sort of bullish on gold. Again, we have to watch, obviously, other these geopolitical developments obviously will be important, but, we remain constructive on gold prices.
Well, oil's definitely been the better trade year to date, but both are up.
Thank you.
Helima, great to see you as always.